When You Just Ain't Got It All Together by Dry Creek Wrangler School. This video is going to be difficult to watch because it involves looking inside yourself and figuring out what is going right and wrong with life. These videos are never, ever easy to watch, but we're going to give it a shot.
Morning. Dwayne here, Dry Creek Wrangler School. Let me ask you a question. At what age should you have it all together? At what age should you have it all figured out? I get a lot of mostly young men on the channel, and they're from 17 to 35, 36, 39.
I'm young.
And they lament that they're at a place in their life and they don't have it figured out. And they don't have it all together. And they wonder what's wrong with them.
I think a lot of people feel this way, and I think that no matter where you are in life, no matter how well you're doing, you're always going to feel this way. Earlier on, we were watching George R.R. Martin talk to Stephen King. And George R.R. Martin was talking about how he thinks that, well, he was saying, are there never days where you wake up and you think that, you know, your writing isn't good, or this isn't good, or you don't like this sentence, you don't like this? And if you could be George R.R. Martin and you don't like your writing after making Game of Thrones, barring the last season, and House of the Dragon, then, you know, you're never truly going to feel like you have it all together. I think part of life is probably accepting that and figuring out where you want to improve and how.
Because they don't have it figured out. They don't have it all together.
I will say I do beat myself up daily for not feeling like I have everything sorted out. And what's even worse than that is when you do figure everything out and you do figure out what you want to do, where you want to go, etc., the next most difficult part is doing it, which I don't know if he talks about that in this video, but it is incredibly difficult to do. I think it's possibly more difficult to know what you want to do and to know where you want to go and then to start making the journey there. It's real difficult. I think, you know, it can be overwhelming, dude, beyond overwhelming.
Of course you don't have it all together. You're not supposed to have it all together. You're not expected to have it all together. Anybody looks at you at 26, 27, 28 years old and says, hey man, what's wrong with you? How come you don't have everything figured out? They're a fool.
I agree.
Knowledge and experience and wisdom takes time. Wisdom comes from experience, and experience takes time. The more experience you have, the more you learn from that experience, the wiser you can get. If you haven't lived long enough to have a broad enough portfolio of experience, then you can't expect to have knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah.
We are told by society today, and it's inferred by movies and television programs, that by the time you're 26 or 27, you should be graduated from college, you should have a degree, you should have a good job, you should have a wife, and you should have it together.
I think it's even worse than that. In my opinion, I think that, you know, even on smaller levels, you look at, you know, Hollywood or movies and shows version of even things like just love, right? Like you're in high school, you're supposed to have your first crush and your first love and your first kiss and your first sexual experience and all of this, and then you look at what that kind of pressure will do to people and what it makes people, You know, people who aren't ready for their first kiss will just get it out the way before the end of high school, just ruining that experience for themselves. I would make an argument that, you know, if you spoke to an incel, they would, you know, quote a lot of stuff that's, you know, normally happens in movies. It's like, oh, I never got this in high school and I never got that. You know, movies and shows and books as well. Though not so much these days because people don't read as much, because there are movies and shows. These things completely warp people's perspective on life, dude, and what it's supposed to be like. I feel like it really does. It can destroy an entire generation. And I think that not long from now, maybe 20 years, maybe 50 years down the road, I wouldn't be surprised if there were certain, you know, laws or regulations on what can and can't be in a movie, or at the very least, there had to be a disclaimer. And I wouldn't be surprised as well if you saw the age ranges on movies like 12 plus, 15 plus, 18 plus. If you saw those numbers changed dramatically after some studies on the psychology of what movies can do to younger people or a generation are done. I really truly do believe like you can grow up watching superhero movies and feel insignificant your entire life because you never get to have that moment where you have true meaning. You know, there's you could probably speak to 100 guys, and I wouldn't be surprised if 10 of them turned around and said, I never felt like I've gotten like my moment to do what I'm supposed to do. But they grew up watching cartoons and shows and movies where the good guy gets that moment to beat the bad guy, and that's what his life was about. And life isn't like that. You live life and you experience it. You don't wait for the moment for your life to have meaning. Life is meaning, dude.
We watch these programs and they're, you know, this movie, it's an hour and a half long, and within an hour and a half, a person goes from a goofed up teenager to someone who's just settled and got it all going on.
True.
And they get the job, they put their childhood bully in his place, they get the girl, fade to black. And we're left to imagine the rest of their life. And what we imagine is left with the last thing that we see. Man, they got it together.
That is true. I do agree that to a certain extent, capitalism could be said to be a big part of the problem. Yeah, I could agree with that. It definitely plays a part. I don't know how big a part it plays. I wouldn't say it plays as big a part as, you know, I don't think anyone's making movies to make people think that they need to do this with their life or do that with their life. I think a lot of the time it's just a story writer who wants to tell a story, who watched similar stories when he was younger and thought he could tell it better, but yeah.
Of course, we don't consider the fact that if you turn the TV off and watch the news, you'll see those same actors show up in the news again and again making stupid mistakes, and they ain't got it together.
That is a great point.
A pine tree grows and matures very fast. An oak tree grows and matures very, very slow. But which one lasts longer? And which one is stronger? Which one shelters more critters and more birds? Which one, when it's done and over and it's cut down, which one is more valuable for the lumber? People don't go out and say, I'm going to spend extra money for some pine furniture. They want oak furniture.
True.
There's a lot of sentiment expressed on the channel. Boy, Dwayne, I wished you'd have been my dad. No, you don't. No, you don't. There's sentiments expressed on there that, you know, I'm flattered, but I know better. I don't take it serious.
very humble. I like it. Very, very humble to admit that he doesn't think that you'd want him as a dad. I wonder what exactly it is that makes him say that. I wonder if
Nobody
he expands on
bursts
it.
from their mother's womb ready for the world.
True.
Nobody bursts from their mother's womb aged and mature and wise. And I'm not wise. I'm not saying I'm wise. I just say that happened. That's why that happened. So, man, maybe we ought not do that. I don't know. To me, that's a kind of a shallow, easy definition of wisdom. But I'm 55 years old, and I'm just now starting to get a little bit figured out. There's a song that Ian Tyson sings, and if you like cowboy music and you're not familiar with Ian Tyson, you ought to look him up. But he's got a song called The Old Double Diamond, and it's about an old cowboy that the ranch he's worked on for years is getting sold. And there's and he says on there, when I first hired on to the Old Double Diamond, I was a darn poor excuse for a man. Yeah, Mama's laughing back there. I edited that for you. It says, I never learned how to aim when the spirit was tame. I couldn't see all the cards in my hand. Well, son, a lot of what your difficulty is right now is you have not yet learned how to aim while the spirit is tame, and you can't see all the cards in your hand. It's not saying the cards aren't there. It's just you haven't matured enough to see them.
I do not understand the analogy, but I'm not great at understanding analogies. I want to listen to that again because I'm struggling to process what he's saying.
And you can't see all the cards in your hand. Is you have not yet learned how to aim while the spirit is tame, and you can't see all the cards in your hand. It's not saying the cards aren't there. It's just you haven't matured enough to see them.
Is he saying that you're not mature enough to know what you're capable of? And it's difficult to know what you're capable of when you cannot stand still enough to even... Is he basically saying it's difficult to know what you can do when you can't even sit down and think about it? Maybe I'm entirely misinterpreting it, or maybe that's my interpretation of it, and that's true for me but won't be true for others. I don't know.
And there will come a time you keep going and you keep learning and you keep growing, that one day you'll look down and the card you needed was there and it's been there all along. But that ain't going to come for a while. And my encouragement to you is stop being so hard on yourself. You know, one of the things I have encouraged my wife in for years, and she's a very natural mother, all right, and she has a natural tendency to take care of people and to worry about stuff. And I've had to tell her over the years, look, that's not your burden to carry. That's not your burden to carry. You have enough burdens at your young age that are rightfully yours for you to worry about carrying, that you don't need to worry about carrying the burdens that are going to come when you're 50 or 55 or 60. You can't even begin to think about having things figured out and having it together.
Man, this is like really difficult to process. Basically that, and you don't know yourself well enough at that age. Gotcha. Not just what you're capable of, but what you actually want. Right, I see. It's difficult to know what you want, difficult to know what you're capable of at any age. Dude, the idea that he's saying right now that requires a lot of looking inside, doesn't it? Like, don't take on the burdens of others without taking care of yourself is basically what I'm understanding. Which is funny because as a bigger guy, like um I'm 6'6", I do probably TV shows and movies and all that, and of course being a super. I've always felt like I should do my best to protect those around me, and when I'm unable to do it, or my emotions get the better of me, um, it does leave this feeling of guilt. And then again, at the same time, I don't take care of myself in a way that I should. I don't think. I mean, I do take pretty good care of myself. I eat well. I go to the gym, get a good workout. Um, there's a lot to process here. And I guess what he said in the beginning is kind of holding true. That it's difficult to aim when you don't know what the cards are in your hand. More or less, I'm paraphrasing.
Until you're in your 50s. Just don't even worry about it. Just don't even worry about it. You've got to have maturity. And maturity comes with time. And maturity is not something that you can gin up artificially. It is not something that you can be responsible for not being ginned up artificially. Dwayne, what I have to do, you have to live. You just have to live.
Yeah.
You just have to live. You just have to act your age. If you're 26, be 26. Stop trying to be 56. It's not expected, and it's a burden that you don't have to carry. You're a young couple, and you're going through some things, and you're like, man, we must be the worst couple in the world. We must be the worst married folks out there. This has got to be, man, we just ain't got it. Of course you ain't got it figured out.
It is difficult to act your age when most people act their age based on movies and shows. I feel anyway. I don't think that these days a lot of people base, acting their age on what their parents did at their age or what friends of theirs are doing at their age. And to be honest, the people that have the thought, I need to act my age, are probably people that are surrounded by people doing better than them. Because no one, I don't, well, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think many people have the thought, I need to act my age when they're already doing well in life. I don't think anyone that's married and has kids or has a really good job or has a great friend group, etc. I don't think those are the people that are thinking I need to act my age. I think it's the guy that doesn't have a job or doesn't have a wife or isn't where they want to be in life. They're the ones thinking I need to act my age. But if acting your age is, in your small experience, either movies and shows or people around you that are doing way better than you, then you think about how long it's going to take you to get to where they are. I do think that's a road to depression. But then I don't know what my advice would be, whether you should act your age. I think I would probably say, my experience of life is I can sum it up pretty simply. Do what makes you happy. That's pretty much it, Try and find a way to be happy. And if you can't find a way to be happy, then the better saying is find contentment. Are you unhappy in what you're doing? Are you happy? Are you content? Being content is the most important thing in life, I think. Because when you're content, you know that happiness will come at some point. And you know that sadness will come at some point. But if you can land in the middle of happiness and sadness, which in my opinion is contentment, then when you're sad, you can sort of look back at it when you're content and appreciate the sadness, because you know that at some point you will feel happy. And you know that having that understanding of contentment, or having that understanding of unhappiness, um, gives you a better appreciation for being happy. And I think an easier way of saying that is saying food doesn't taste nearly as good when you're full as when you're hungry. You can appreciate food much more when you're hungry. Like you can appreciate happiness much more when you're sad. But you've got that place in the middle of you're not hungry, um, and you're not full. And that's contentment. For me, anyway. That's my understanding of life. And I do my best to try and find contentment, and then I search for happiness. Um, it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. And I will say that searching for happiness rather than just laying in a content state can lead to very difficult days, for sure. Because searching for happiness is to challenge yourself, you know? You're challenging your contentment, and then you're challenging yourself to bear with sadness in order to get to a happier state, because you cannot go from contentment straight to happiness without sadness in between. I know I'm kind of talking in riddles here because it's difficult to put forward my entire understanding of life, even within a book. But long story short, find contentment, and then if you want more from life, search for happiness, but prepare for sadness before you get there.
When you hit 30, you still ain't 30 years of marriage, you still ain't gonna have it all figured out. My wife and I are still trying to figure stuff out. And we just take it as it comes, and we learn and we mature and we grow, and it takes time. But you'll not get there if you quit. Fellas, you'll not get there if you quit, if you just say, forget it. You know, I can't be the man that I wanted to be. Well, of course you're not right now. You will not be the man that you want to be until you grow into it. You have to grow into it. So the whole point of this video is just to encourage you, chill out, man. Just chill. You guys
I like that
are contacting me and saying, man, I got a degree and I just lost this job. Listen, and I'm not making light of it, okay? Let me just put it in perspective, all right? I've got 5 grandbabies. Now, one of those grandbabies is, let's say that grandbaby is 14 months old and they're learning to walk, okay? And so they're just in a diaper. You've seen it, you know, they're just in a diaper and they're going across the kitchen floor to mama, and they're kind of weaving a little bit, and their little fat feet and their little fat thighs are just kind of thunk, 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 and all of a sudden they're like, oh, and they got the bubble butt out here, the bubble tubby tummy out here, and they got the big old diaper in the back, so they're not balanced, all right? And so they lose their balance, and they're like, oh, bam, and they fall down and land flat on their butt. And they look shocked, and they look surprised, and then their face screws up, and they start crying bloody murder. That's the worst thing that has ever happened to them in their life. It's like a disaster of apocalyptic proportions, because it's all they've ever known. And you've just gone through a breakup, and it's the worst thing you've ever been through. And it's a disaster of apocalyptic proportions, because you haven't had the time and the experience yet to develop worse, and to turn around and look at that in relation to the realities of a long life well lived. And one day you're going to try and look back and you're going to say,
really good.
That really wasn't such a disaster. And in fact, that was probably the best thing ever happened to me. Some of you lost your job, and you thought that job was it, and it was a good paying job, and you went 4 years of college in order to get the degree to get that job, and then you got the job, and then COVID happened, or layoffs and different stuff, and now all of a sudden you lost that job. It's the worst thing you've ever been through.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you're sitting there and you're thinking, man, I thought my life was together. Now it's in shambles at my feet. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not. It's all.
I agree. The comparison he's making is really, really good. Like unbelievably solid. I will say that there is a possibility that this is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And it will have been the worst thing that's ever happened to you. But then the good side of that is that was the worst thing that ever happened to you. It never got any worse than that. That was it. How great is that? As long as you either understand that it wasn't the worst thing that ever happened and you're going to get by it, or that's as bad as it's going to get, either way, I feel like you're winning there. I do. Both are incredibly difficult, of course. And in the moment, you know, it's the same thing as like if you're walking with a friend, you fall over, smack your head, you're in pain, your friend is laughing. It's not funny in the moment, but you'll look back and you'll laugh. It's difficult to take yourself outside the moment and look at it with perspective, you know?
All right. It's all right. You're not supposed to have it together. All right. Those who go to college, get out of college, get a job, and stay in that job until they retire, then retire and buy property down in Florida, that's an anomaly. That's not normal. It happens, but it's an anomaly. And most of those people, you know, they might be really good people, but they ain't got cool stories to tell.
True.
And you don't get wisdom. You don't get wisdom.
Very true.
Past a certain point by living that life. Okay?
They are the most boring people, for sure.
2 or 3 years ago, I made a whole series of really, really bad decisions. Really bad decisions. And it brought me to the point at 50, over 50, where I was like, I ain't got it together. I'm not mature, I'm not grown, I'm not the man I'm supposed to be. And I started working on it. And the man that I am today, the father that I would be today, if children were to come along today, that's not the man I was before, and that's not the father I could have been before. Okay? A blade does not become strong. It does not become tempered until it's been through the fire. Until it's been through the fire several times. And this is just your first or second time through the fire. And there's a lot of hammer work that has to take place. And then you're going to have to go back in the forge again. And it's hot. And it melts you down and you're uncomfortable. And then life is going to pull you out and it's going to put you on the anvil and it's going to hammer on you some more. And you're going to say, what? Am I done yet? Am I a sword for the ages? No. No, you're not. You're not done yet. All right? So just chill. Just chill. Continue to have fun. Now, by fun, I'm not recommending you go out, drink your brains out at the bar and do something stupid. But my goodness, go hunting, go fishing, get a mountain bike, go hiking, go to the gym, go hang out around a barbecue fire with friends and just act silly and act goofy and be your age. Be your age and just embrace the process. And don't look for what you are supposed to be fully, completely polished, sharpened, edged, tempered at 26 or 36, at 46. You've got a lot more forge time left. You've got a lot more hammer blows left. And it takes time. But if you will patiently embrace the process, then by the time you get up in years, you can be a man that you're proud of. Okay? So this is just an encouragement to just chill out. Just chill out. Embrace the process. You say, Dwayne, what process? Life. Life. Embrace the journey and the process of life. You only get stronger hiking by going uphill.
True.
Nobody gets stronger hiking by just going downhill.
Very true.
All right. I'm going to get in trouble here if I don't do this. Eric Stockaby, 4th generation, and Aberrant. This is my first 10 of this, and it's actually Rustica, which is a very old tobacco, and it's a pretty heavyweight tobacco, mixed with
I want to
Sweet
see if
Virginia
anything else about what he was saying
and a little bit of Dark Fire Kentucky, which I'm very fond of. It's a very robust, very interesting, very flavorful mixture. But if you are a what's the word I want? Aromatic smoker, it's probably not going to be for you. But that's what we got going on here. So again, guys and gals, just hang in there. I'm rooting for you, and we'll catch you guys next time.
That was a really, really good video. Dry Creek Wrangler School, go give the video a watch, or his other videos, and give him a like. There's also the fact that he's talking to neurotypicals. Neurodivergent experience is a little different. That is very, very true. Neurodivergent people's experience of life is completely different. I'm to the point that I am surprised that in the same way that we recognize that, you know, monkeys and chimpanzees are part of the same group, I'm surprised that neurotypical people and neurodivergent people aren't recognized as a completely different type of human, because the experience of life really is that different. What I will say though is that a lot of what he said still makes sense to me. I think I understood a lot of what he was saying already, but it's always good to hear, you know, that kind of stuff said by someone else. I think anyway. What do I ultimately think about all that? I think he's right. I think that, you know, you could look at it as be your age. I personally look at it more as, you know, try and find contentment where you are in life. And if you want life to get better, then prepare for it to get worse before it does, which is more or less what he said with the tempered blade analogy. You need to go back in, you're going to get hammered before you're the person that you wanted to be. I've never really thought about who I want to be in life. I just am, which I guess is how my life is. The way I look at life is different to the way that he does. I just am. And I have a goal in life. I have a place that I want to be. It's a very difficult path that I'm taking, but I know where I want to be. And it's just about fighting the war in order to get there, you know? That was a super interesting, very introspective, very humbling video, dude. That was fantastic. Again, that video is by Dry Creek Wrangler School. It's called When You Ain't Got It All Together. If you want to go watch it, go do that. Go give them a like. Yeah, cool.